Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Newark and Sherwood series, a district of 84 civil parishes right in the centre of Nottinghamshire. Come with me as we delve into one of them. Welcome back to Newark and Sherwood again, people, and today we've got a really small one for you, one that's very linear affair this, and we're starting outside its church here. This is St Mary's Church. That's our start point, and our end point is a railway line which is not too far away. In fact, I imagine you can probably see the church from where the railway line is. This is a village that's so small. I'm also hoping this church is open too, because so far this morning I haven't been able to get into any churches, so yeah, let's see if we can. This is Bleasby. This Newark and Sherwood video is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to Bleasby, a small village sitting just to the north of the River Trent, a few miles away from Southwell. If you think you heard that last week, well, you did. This is the next village over from Fiskerton as you head west, and you might remember Hazelford Lock and Weir at the end of that episode. Most of Hazelford falls within Bleasby's boundaries. Hazelford was thought to be the point where King Charles I crossed the Trent on his way to negotiate with the Scots at Southwell prior to his eventual capture. Perhaps more importantly, it was the site of the baptism of the Saxon court of King Edwin in 627 AD. Hazelford once had a ferry too, and its winding gear has been preserved on the Trent bank. Speaking of the Saxons, it was their charter in 956 where Bleasby was first mentioned. It was recorded as Blisetune, named after a Danish soldier called Blesi. Bleasby isn't famed for much, but it has had one very notable resident in its time. This was the childhood home of William Booth, the founder of the Salvation Army. Bleasby has a public house near its church. It has a primary school, a railway station, 3 caravan sites, and a walking route around an area known as the Jubilee Ponds. It's a pleasant little place, so let's go and explore it. We start at the Church of St Mary at the village's southeastern end. This church dates from the 13th century originally, and it was restored once in 1853 and again in 1869 by Ewan Christian. It stands in part of Bleasby's conservation area. The churchyard is still in use today and it surrounds the church, though many of its grave markers can no longer be read. The village's war memorial is in here too. Memorials wise, there's more than just this to see on our walk. Keep that in mind. St Mary's may not be big, but it's well proportioned, with a nave, tower, chancel, north aisle and a short north transept, which was once a schoolroom which is now used as a vestry. The tower has 2 traditional bells and a set of 8 tubular chimes. The church was open, so we're going in. Inside, we'll find a Gray and Davison organ, which dates from 1863. And with it being early October, it was perhaps no surprise there was a box in the porch for the local harvest festival. Okay, so we're in the church. Let's see what we can find in here. Let's go into the chancel first. And in here we've got obviously the altar, Some nice stained glass above that. Looks good. So what else we've got? Nice lectern here. Pulpit on the other side. Some tablets up above. I'll have a quick look at those too. Always like to see these, see what names are associated with places. Parrot. Oh, John Parrot Esquire. I don't think it's going to be the same John Parrot as we know from the snooker world, but never know, it might be a distant relation. Here's the organ. Beautiful organ. Nice little kitchen area here. I wonder if that's a toilet. If it is, I'm definitely going to make use of it. Third village I've done this morning. Yes, it is. Right, I'll go in there in a second. Beautiful little church, this. You can even make your own coffee or tea if you come to visit. It's very thoughtful, that. Once out of the churchyard, we turn right and we come to Glebe Field. Glebeland is an area which was historically used to support the parish priest. It was used to grow vegetables, and this would have had buildings upon it once upon a time. In one corner of Glebe Field is an aircrew memorial. This remembers the names of 41 airmen who died in aircraft crashes in the area during World War II. There's also a plaque for those airmen whose names are unknown. This tree away to the right is the Coronation Oak, which was planted in 1937 to commemorate King George VI's coronation. Although that's not the original tree, within a year of it being planted, it was found to be dying. The parish council didn't want to disappoint the locals, so they replaced it during the dead of night, and nobody was none the wiser until years later. That's one of the stories told on this board, which has got a good deal of information about Glebe Field. I love information boards like this because they give you a picture of how places were in times past. That is how Glebe Field would have looked, and if you read the blurb, it says at the top here, if you were standing here in the year 1660, the view across the Glebe Field would have looked very different. The vicarage and its farm buildings stood in this field, and the land would have been used by the priest for growing food and keeping livestock. A bit further down, it says they were demolished in the 19th century. So, and of course, earthworks, we're used to seeing earthworks. That's what the Humpty Bumpties are in this field. It's where the buildings used to be. We're used to seeing those everywhere by now, aren't we? So yeah, a bit different to how it looks now. Gypsy Lane now, and that's the village's pub called the Wagon and Horses. The locals refer to it as the Wagon. It was refurbished during the COVID-19 lockdown, hosts a quiz night every Sunday, and has regular live music nights too. And now we start to head north. One of the special characteristics of the parish is its structure. It was effectively a series of clustered settlement areas with open fields between each. Now it's more or less a continuous ribbon of dwellings along the main road. The old village clusters were around St Mary's Church, Glebe Field, the village hall and the Wagon and Horses, and that's why they are where most of the older houses are situated. Between them are much newer dwellings, good examples of infilling. To look at a modern map, you'd never know that settlements like Knowtown and Rudsey ever existed, but they've been swallowed up by Bleasby's growth. At the northern end of Bleasby is Gubberton, and to the south is Gibbsmere, both of which are still distinctly separate. Okay, so we've reached the phone box. Defib machine's in here, and it's also a book exchange. Let's have a quick look inside. There we go. It says on the wall, please leave it tidy. Well, it looks fairly tidy to me. Good effort. There are a couple of interesting buildings to tell you about as we walk on further. One of them is right behind the old phone box. That house you can see there is an old telephone exchange. Surely it must be a bit small to live in. No such trouble at the old police house, I imagine though, which is just a few doors down. Wherever you live here, you're likely to receive the quarterly newsletter, Bleasby News, published by a team of local volunteers. On the community theme, it's not long before we're passing a parish notice board. Mark it off, folks. I was amazed by how much stuff goes on here. Bleasby is full of community groups and has many social events, most involving the whole village. Past events have included a bike festival, an apple festival and a dog show, and they were all in 2019. Details of upcoming events are posted on the Bleasby Village Facebook page, which I've linked below. It's definitely a close-knit community here. Okay, so we're heading towards that railway line. My assertion that I could see the church from the railway line is obviously not going to happen because I can't even see my car at this point. So yeah, it's obviously longer than I thought, but not too much longer. It's not a long walk, this. And I'm just thinking to myself, linear villages, they really do annoy me because obviously I've got to walk back along here in a short while because there's no way to form a circle. And the annoying thing about that is, of course, there are side streets which are all dead ends, and of course I'm not going to be able to catch those because it's pointless going up a dead end to come out of it again. Yeah, that's about where we are. We're sort of, I don't know, 3/4 of the way down through the village now. The village does alright for public transport. On the end of one of those dead ends we find a bus stop. You can catch here the Notts Bus Connect service number 300. Bleasby also has a railway station too, which we're working our way towards. The fact that public transport exists here is a good thing. I've been to villages much larger than this before where it's non-existent. With connections easy to come by, it's little wonder then that many of Bleasby's residents travel for work. I passed quite a few roadside stalls on this walk. Some of them I couldn't even call stalls though, because like these apples it was a case of help yourself, they're free. Anyway, next to pass is the old chapel. Now, there's not a lot out there about this. In fact, it's pretty much the only thing in this video that's not featured anywhere on the excellent Parish Council website. I can tell you though, it was last valued at £350,000. Okay, I just want to show you this because I'm sure some people who live in Bleasby are probably thinking this at this point. There is a footpath which goes around the back of the village up here and then loops around towards where the church is, but the problem is it takes you miles out of your way, which is why I'm not going down it. So it's part of the Parish Paths Partnership, apparently. We're heading towards the railway line now as our main walk draws to a close. Once again, the line in question is the Nottingham to Lincoln line, and Bleasby's original station buildings were designed by Thomas Chambers Hine. It's been a while since we've heard that name on the channel, but he's back. Just before we get there, we pass the entrance to Bleasby's primary school. This is a Church of England academy which is a member of MITRE, the Minster Trust for Education. And here we are at the station, and this has an extensive history. This was opened in 1846 and was originally called Bleasby Gate. It suffered a lot from flooding in the past. Because of this, as the line passes through Bleasby, it's significantly elevated. During the war, the crossing gates here were closed at night, and a woman named Florence Staunton, locally known as the female crossing keeper, would open them to allow traffic through, after of course ensuring she was fully clothed. So here at the station there's a handy map and I can show you where we are. There we are at Bleasby Station, and I've walked from the church, which is about there-ish somewhere, or maybe yeah it's there. It is, it's there. So as you can see, that's 10 minutes walking distance, so it's not that far away from the station. So that's as much as I've walked. You can see all these dead ends that come off the street, the main street, Station Road, which obviously I would have caught had there have been a circular walk. And that footpath I was talking about is this one here. You can see, look, it goes all the way up here, crosses a little beck, and then comes down here before looping back to the church. I didn't think there was much value in going up there, quite frankly, because you know, what am I going to see apart from fields and other things like that? So it's just basically a walk back from the station to the church for me next. And today's picture bit will focus mainly on this area here, Gibbsmere, because the River Trent runs down here, and there's a collection of ponds and lakes here, and there are some things there which I'm going to include in today's picture bit. So that's coming your way right now while I make my way back to the church. Okay, so I've got as far back as Glebe Field, and one thing I do need to mention, because I haven't passed it on the walk, is the village hall, which is down Gypsy Lane. Now, obviously, if this had been a circular walk, I probably would have caught it, but if it's up that dead end up there, then obviously I haven't managed to get it on my trek around Bleasby. So if I can find a picture of it, I'll put it in the video right now. And find one I did. I need to tell you a bit about this too. This attractive village hall was originally the village's school, built in 1855. It was in use as the school until the 1960s, when the current Bleasby Primary School was built. Right, time for me to get back into the car and head to my next one here in Newark and Sherwood. That's another one knocked off the list. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot. This has been the parish of Bleasby, and I'm out.